Hi guys, this is a follow-up video to my Elder Scrolls Online verdict video that I made after the beta weekend. And I want to clear up some points, I want to counter-argue some points you guys have made, and I also want to fix a few misunderstandings. The primary misunderstanding I want to fix is some people seem to think I didn't like the game. I did say I liked the game, I enjoyed it, I had fun, and I stand by that. I am not saying this is not a game you shouldn't buy. I have already bought it. I have pre-ordered it. I will be playing it, and it's as simple as that. It was a fun game. I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed playing with you guys. I can find fault with a game and still think it's a good game. However, I would also like to clear up the misunderstanding that I found a lot of faults with it. I pointed out some minor faults, some minor flaws, but in fact some people are taking some of the things I said to be an attack on the game that weren't. They were more of an attack on a misunderstanding some people might have, and that misunderstanding is the fact that some people were expecting this game to be an Elder Scrolls game, and by that I mean like Morrowind or like Oblivion or like Skyrim, and it isn't, at least not in my opinion. It doesn't feel anything like those games. It really does not. It feels like an MMORPG to me. That should be no big surprise. But I do know there was this, people were asking, oh, is this going to be like Skyrim with friends? And I wanted people to understand that it is not like Skyrim with friends. That is not actually a criticism. It is simply, to me, a statement of fact. It is, if that is going to drive some people away from buying the game, then they probably should not have actually bought the game. If they thought it was Skyrim with friends, they would probably be disappointed. And so I've saved them and ZeniMax a bit of a headache, because the last thing ZeniMax are going to want are people buying their game thinking it's one thing, and then, because there'll be an almighty outcry from people who are disappointed. So, that's what I was trying to do. Now, I did have some criticisms of the game, and I think valid ones. They were not major ones, though. I mean, the ones about the user interface for the friends and the guild thing, nobody actually argued with me over those, so I won't talk about those again. But for example, the races. I'm not keen on the fact that they don't feel like Elder Scroll races. Now, some of the counter-arguments were simply people saying, well, no, they look just like the Elder Scroll races. No. The elves in the Elder Scrolls look quite alien, somewhat intimidating. They have very harsh faces. They're very, very angular, very pointy features. They have brow ridges, very sort of prominent brows. They don't look very human, and they just don't look cute. They're not like Lord of the Rings elves are beautiful and tall, and they are quite alien, and they do look different in the Elder Scrolls Online. They look like kind of cute human beings with makeup and pointy ears on. People who are saying that's not true, I'm not totally sure we're looking at the same thing, to be honest. And the orcs, well, the orcs in the Elder Scrolls have always looked vaguely, I always think of them as kind of Klingon-y, if you know what I mean. They've got the big brows, and some of them have got horns, and they've got big teeth and protruding jaws and, large noses, and they look very different. They do look vaguely bestial, orc-like, I would say. And in the Elder Scrolls Online, they look kind of pretty. I saw some female orcs that were really kind of cute, just with little fangs. But the fangs were almost cute as well. So people who are saying that's not the case, I'm wondering if we're looking at the same thing. Some people said, but it's much better, I prefer this. Now that's okay. You are entitled to prefer it. But at the same time, you can't object when people comment on it. When they've changed the way races look, the alien and intimidating elves and the somewhat scary-looking orcs become kind of cute supermodels with, teeth and ears. And they are. I mean, I even saw some male orcs who looked kind of handsome. They had that slight Chippendale look, only with a slight skin tinting. And it was for me, a little disconcerting. But if you like that, that's okay. I understand, completely understand. But at the same time, you have to understand a lot of people are going to double take at that. So, hey. The other criticism was about the graphics, or at least people were criticising me criticising the graphics. I don't feel I criticised the graphics exactly. I just said that they were better than Skyrim, the vanilla Skyrim, but not as good as a heavily modded Skyrim. That just gives you an idea of what you're looking at. I'm not saying they should be as good as a heavily modded Skyrim, or that they should even be better than vanilla Skyrim. I'm just telling you what they are. That is just what they are. That's not that important to me, to be brutally honest. That was more of an observation. What I can tell you is the feel of the game graphically was a bit different. It had less impact, and again, that could have been where I was, but it also could have been, some aspects of it being an MMORPG. Someone else pointed out that in MMORPGs, they tend to make corridors very big, doors very wide, and so on. And so everything feels a little odd, and people all feel kind of small, and that might be part of it. Because in general, when I looked at things in the graphics, I was like, that's kind of nice, and yet for some reason, I didn't feel the majesty I felt in Skyrim. That's a personal thing. Is it a criticism? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it was a major one. And people say, oh, it's unfair to make that criticism. I don't think so. I'm sorry. I think I can compare it to any game I want. You can then retort and say, fair enough, its graphics aren't as good as this game, but you have to understand it's an MMORPG, and so it's a little harder. And, that's fair enough, but at least we're acknowledging it. There was some discussion as to whether I was unfair expecting voice comms. Well, I wasn't actually expecting it, but, well, maybe semi. I was hoping for it. And people, it's unfair to expect that in an MMORPG. And I'm sorry, but I actually reject that out of hand, because I believe that is the future of MMORPGs. In fact, I believe it should be the present. Voice comms is now pretty much the norm for multiplayer games. Now, yes, it comes with a host of problems, or not problems, but difficulties to overcome, bandwidth being the primary one. However, this is something that could have been sorted. They could have had voice comm servers that handle this bandwidth, or at the very least had something like TeamSpeak Mumble integration. So I could, if I logged in, I could set up my TeamSpeak details inside the Elder Scrolls client, and then when I formed a pickup group, people would automatically get added to that if they had selected the option to allow voice communications, if they had a microphone, for example, and they would be automatically placed on my TeamSpeak server by the game, and then we'd have that. Maybe that's an option. I don't honestly think things like that would be insurmountably difficult, or just have some very, very low quality basic voice comms just for pickup groups. Now, I do understand for guilds and for groups who play regularly with each other, you're going to go for TeamSpeak, same way as you do that in any other game, whether it be Counter-Strike, TF2, or and so on, Left 4 Dead. But they do come with some basic voice comms of their own so that you can at least get the conversation started. And for a game like this, an MMORPG, this is what's going to decide its future, the community. Whether or not the community builds bonds with each other, and one of the best ways to do that is to let them talk to each other. It really is. Typing just doesn't feel as personal. It just doesn't feel as... You don't feel as connected to the people, so you've got 4 or 5 people in a group, and you're all looking at the typing chat. It's just not the same as listening to each other, and maybe even cracking jokes, and just the humour element. Anyone who's ever played like that will tell you it's just a completely different feel. And if they'd have added something like that, I think it would have really helped the game. Now, some people will say, well, I wouldn't like that, because then you get those people with horribly annoying, squeaky voices. It would always be an option. You could always turn it off, obviously. But I just think it would have been nice. Now, I'm not saying that, this game's going to fail because it doesn't have it. I'm just saying it would be nice. And I honestly think just because no MMORPG has had it before, doesn't mean that's going to be always the way. I reject that idea, because by that logic, no new feature, no new functionality, no new improvement would ever be added. people add new things to these games all the time, and I think voice comms in this type of game is coming. I literally, I could say with a 99.9% certainty that that feature will get added to such a game sometime in the future, and I don't think that future is that far away. And you know, any other criticisms I have of this are going to be based upon the fact that it's an MMORPG, and people are going to go, oh my god, you can't criticize an MMORPG for being an MMORPG. Well, yeah, you can. I'm not saying that I would expect it to ever be anything different, but let's face it, MMORPGs have their own host of little things that are annoying. Sometimes that thing could actually be other people. Other people can be annoying, but you can't have an MMORPG without other people, therefore it's something you put up with. The same is true of things like when you have quests where 20 people are going off to kill a goblin king, and you all have to kill him and get in line and queue up, and it's annoying, and there's very little way around it. It's the nature of the game. It still doesn't, you know, I mean, you can still point that out and say, this is one of the things you're going to have to put up with. If you buy this game, you're going to have to understand you're not the center of the universe, you're not the only one doing these quests, and there are 10,000 other people doing it. Get over it. And that's not necessarily criticizing the game exactly. You could say it's criticizing the genre, yeah, but more than anything, it's just warning people of what to expect if they've never played an MMORPG. This sort of thing goes on, and you know, my apologies if you are horribly offended by me pointing out the weaknesses of this type of game, but there it is, there you are. And I would just like to mention some of the well, stranger comments that were coming out. People sort of saying, you know, you can't have an opinion after so little play. Yes, I can. The proof of that is I had an opinion. What you mean is I should not share my opinion after so little play. Well, why not? Everyone else has got an opinion and everyone else is sharing it, and you happen to be sharing yours with me right now. When you're saying, oh, this game's actually good and this game's this, you're sharing your opinion. Why can't I share mine? Is it because I have an audience? Maybe I've got slightly more responsibility to think of the impact of that opinion. And yeah, okay, true, but I'm still allowed to have one and I'm still allowed to express it. And yeah, perhaps I need to be a little bit more careful, and hence the reason I'm making this follow-up video, so people do understand my opinion. But as for, you know, not being able to have an opinion in such a short amount of time, I don't see why not. I didn't make any predictions as to the longevity of this game beyond saying it's going to come down to the community. I didn't really have a go at any of the mechanics of the game and say, oh, well, this mechanic's going to make it fail, or this mechanic isn't that good, or it just, you know, it was the small first impressions that I was giving you, and yeah, of course I'm entitled to have those opinions. And I'm entitled to express flaws in betas, even though it's a beta. Some people say, well, you shouldn't have said negative things about a beta. They'll get fixed. They'll only get fixed if people talk about them. The other one was, you can't have an opinion about MMORPGs because you've never played them. You're a single-player type person. Well, firstly, let's just say straight off, that is just wrong. I can have an opinion about this game. I can certainly have an opinion about the things I was talking about, which were primarily the differences between, say, the single-player Skyrim game, Elder Scrolls games, and the Elder Scrolls Online. Of course I can have an opinion about that because I've just played Elder Scrolls Online and I'm comparing it to the single player. You don't need to be an MMORPG expert to have an opinion, especially when what you're trying to do is explain to people that it is not the same as the single player games that you have been playing. But secondly, who says I haven't played MMORPGs before? I played EverQuest, EverQuest 2, Conan, was it the Hyperborean Age? The Funcom one. The one that didn't do very well. I played Anarchy Online, I played War. I liked War. I played some others and I can't remember them. I played some really old games, the precursors to these MMORPGs, things like Meridian 59, if any of you remember that. Now that was a bit small, it was like 200 people per server, but still, it was kind of just where you could see this type of game starting. And I can even trace my gameplay of this type all the way back to the text-based mods. Oh yeah, Deku mods and so on. So, yeah, I've been playing this type of game for a long time. And I played raiding guilds for EverQuest 1 and 2. I was in raiding guilds. I played way too seriously and way too much. And got very, very far. Multiple characters in EverQuest 2, actually, to the highest ranks. So, I've actually got that experience. But again, it actually doesn't matter. You don't need it to make the comparisons I made in my last video. So I reject that claim out of hand. But overall, the point of this video is to basically say I didn't not like the game. In fact, I liked the game. I thought it was fun. I've pre-ordered it. I'm going to play it. I like it. I enjoyed playing with you guys. That was a lot of fun, and when we get a TeamSpeak server set up, it's going to be even more fun. And so yes, I will be playing it, probably, you know, a couple of times a week, but, you know, definitely not 4 hours a night type thing. I'll be playing it. It looks like a good game. It doesn't mean I can't find flaws with it. I find flaws with all the games I play. I find flaws with Skyrim, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. In fact, as a mod maker, that's literally what I do. I find things that are wrong with it or that need improving, and I do it myself. Why I would not do that on the Elder Scrolls Online is beyond me. It doesn't mean that I don't like the game. It doesn't mean that I think it's a bad game. And it does not mean I think people should not buy it. If you think the Elder Scrolls Online is going to be Skyrim with friends, then you are, I think you're wrong, and I would suggest you don't buy it. If you realise that it's an MMORPG and you like MMORPGs, or you're thinking of trying one and you like the Elder Scrolls world, buy it and play it. If you're, you know, in the middle about MMORPGs but you love the Elder Scrolls, buy it. If you don't really care about MMORPGs but you want to join me on a server and have some fun killing random stuff, buy it. There are plenty of reasons to buy this. The only reason I would suggest people don't buy it is if they thought it was going to be Skyrim with friends, if they thought it was going to be the same experience they got with Morrowind when they played it as a single-player game, because it just isn't. That's an unavoidable fact, I think. I don't think that's just an opinion of mine, or at least if it is an opinion, I think it's one that's shared by the vast majority. It's a fairly uncontroversial opinion. But you know, if you were thinking of playing this game and you were completely aware of the fact that it was an MMORPG and that it was going to be, you know, it was going to be a different experience to your single-player Elder Scrolls game, buy it. Join me on the server. We'll have some fun. And you know, I apologise if I gave any other impression. Anyway, I have rambled on long enough. I hope this clarified my position and helped alleviate any worries you had about my expressing my opinion about this game. So I will see you guys next time, and I look forward to meeting the rest of you, the ones I didn't meet in-game, who intend to join the guild and come adventuring with me. I look forward to seeing you in-game then, in not too long actually. So I will see you guys there.